Hello everyone, it's Cynthia again, and I'm wearing my Porn Kills Love, Fight for Love Street Team Kit t-shirt, which I wore in one of my previous videos. So it's Friday, and it's been a long week of school for me, so currently I'm feeling really tired and exhausted, but today I will be covering another topic on pornography. So this topic would be the different types of porn. And when people think about the different types of porn, they mostly think of hardcore porn or softcore porn, but there's actually multiples of different kinds of porn. It's definitely more than 2 different types. So I'll be talking about several types of porn that's out there. So I made a booklet or list of the different types of porn, and I'll explain each one of them. So, hardcore pornography would be the type of porn that most people would know because it's mainstream, and there's actually another name for hardcore pornography, which is gonzo pornography. I guess you can say it's like a sub-genre of hardcore pornography. But gonzo pornography is typically involves men with gigantic muscles, like steroid fueled or steroid packed, and women with large breasts on thin bodies. And so gonzo pornography typically has extreme appendages and exaggerated body parts. So that's definitely not a natural depiction of the human body. And gonzo pornography involves a lot of violence and sexually degrading acts. And on to my next point, there is softcore pornography, which is the opposite of hardcore porn in the sense where it's less violent. And softcore pornography may either include full nudity or partial nudity. And this is something that a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know before either, since I became anti-porn, which is 2 years ago. Actually, yeah, before I became anti-porn 2 years ago, I didn't know that women in bikinis or lingeries posing sexually for the camera with an erotic sexual expression on their faces is softcore pornography. And the reason why that is considered softcore pornography is because to define pornography is basically filmed prostitution, and the whole purpose of pornography is to sexually arouse the person through human bodies. And there's even scientific experiments like a few years ago or so on brain scans, such as scanning the brains of people who just recently watched softcore porn of women in bikinis. And the scientists or researchers were trying to find what kind of impacts men viewing these type of women has. Based on the results from the MRI scans of the brain, and MRI stands for magnetic resonant imaging. I'm just going to double check that. Magnetic resonance imaging, and which is basically using magnetic fields to produce computer images showing different areas of brain tissue. So from the results, they found that men who view women in bikinis, like sexually posing for the camera, see these women as sex objects more so than as human beings. So we can conclude that yes, indeed, women in bikinis or lingerie posing erotically for the camera and for the audience is indeed softcore porn. And that used to be regular porn back then. But nowadays, society is so desensitized to pornography that a lot of those images are no longer considered pornography, at least by society. But in reality, yes, they are considered softcore porn. they're almost everywhere. Ads, display windows of shopping stores or shopping malls, bulletin boards, like a whole lot of places. It's because we live in a pornified culture. And on to my next point, there is amateur porn. And amateur porn can be today's regular porn sometimes. And amateur porn is where people who aren't officially porn actresses or porn actors, or not non-porn stars, upload their own homemade videos of them doing sexual acts. And amateur porn is actually unregulated, so it's kind of difficult to tell whether or not the woman or the man in the video is being raped for real, or if there is actual consent. Or say if there's like an underage girl in the video, no one can exactly be sure because amateur porn is homemade and it's not regulated. So that's a huge risk about amateur porn. And there's also hentai, which stands for anime or manga porn. And a lot of young people are very sensitive and defensive when it comes to hentai because they think that hentai doesn't involve real bodies, so it shouldn't be that harmful. But when in actual reality, hentai depicts women as sex objects and men mostly as rapists, raping these women or girls. And hentai involves a lot of, oftentimes it involves pedophile themes, bestiality, violent abuse towards girls and women, and what else? And incest. So yeah, there's a lot of bad in hentai as well, and some people would argue that it's worse than live action porn. Even porn viewers would argue that. And some males, for instance, would say real women don't measure up to the images of hentai women, because typically in hentai, women have gigantic breasts and out of proportioned bodies and flawless bleached skin. The next point would be erotica, which is written porn. And some people would argue that it's not as bad as live action porn. But there's still some studies going on about the damaging effects of erotica. Erotica, it mostly has to do with written porn, but it can also have to do with visual art, and most people would say it has to do with literature or written porn. So erotica, for example, 50 Shades of Grey would be an example of an erotica, and a lot of people would say 50 Shades of Grey is not a legit depiction of what BDSM is. It's like an awful imitation of what it is. And erotica can have a lot of unrealistic standards towards men and women. And on to the next point, auditory porn. So this is something that not many people know of, but it's getting there. So auditory porn is pornography which is heard through the ears. And it's not seen with the eyes, so it's mostly for blind people or people who prefer sexual arousement through their ears. And it usually consists of sexual noises. But the problem with auditory porn is that a lot of those noises are fake and exaggerated, and so it doesn't show what actual lovemaking is like or what it actually sounds like. So all of these types of pornography can definitely create unrealistic expectations and standards. And yeah, there's no such thing as ethical porn, because all of them, they impair the frontal lobe of the brain, and the frontal lobe of the brain is in charge of morality, decision, behavior, impulsivity, and also intelligence, such as short-term memory. And yeah, that's definitely not a good thing. And also, regardless of what kind of pornography it is, they also promote sexual exploitation, unrealistic sexual expectations, as I mentioned before, and sexual objectification, because pornography is eroticizing the human body, and yeah, its whole purpose is to sexually arouse the viewer through human bodies. So saying not all porn is bad is like saying not all poison is bad, because truth is, pornography is officially a vice. For instance, if you Google the definition of vice, an example of a vice would be pornography, and prostitution, gambling, recreational drugs. So yes, those are indeed vices, and we shouldn't be making vices into good things, because for the most part, they are unhealthy for us, and because they can lead to dire negative consequences. And so, yeah, you can't just simply turn a vice into a good thing, but unfortunately, the kind of society we live in is a neoliberalistic society. So pretty much, as the saying goes, do as you do, or do whatever you want to do as long as it makes you happy. But then if it's actually hurting other people, is it really worth it? Because like that kind of thinking is just very selfish, and it doesn't really promote a healthy or good society. So yeah, that's pretty much about it for now, and I'll see you in my next video. So porn kills love, fight for